And we're back, folks. Back again this week for Far Out Flicks.
Got something a little special
this is a special episode. For one, joining me here in my personal studio is the one and only Braden B Money.
Hello.
United again at last in person.
Yep.
But additionally, we have one more to our roster today. Introducing the great Matt.
That's me.
That's
nice to meet
him.
you guys.
An additional kind of like fun thing about this episode is we all just watched this film in the theater. And this is the first film I've seen in a theater since January 2020.
Dude, same. Even longer than that, probably.
The last movie I saw was Sam Raimi's The Grudge remake, which was like bad. It was probably the worst movie-going experience of my entire life. Not solely because of the abomination that is that film. It was just bad theater. Bad time all around.
I did not see that one.
I love the original Grudge, and I love Sam Raimi.
Yes, of course.
I just feel like he was like pretty hands-off with this one, and it came out, meh. Because I think he was an executive producer of it.
Okay, so...
Some name in the credits, but like hopefully his
Sure.
hand...
They slapped his name on it, possibly.
It was not good, though. It was really bad. It made the original Grudge look like really good. Yeah.
The original Grudge, meaning like the American one.
Yes, correct. Or, which obviously Ju-On, the Korean horror variety, is excellent and worth mentioning.
Sure.
What was the last movie you saw in theaters?
Ah, fuck, I can't even remember. It's been that long. I want to say it was Midsommar.
That was a good one, yeah.
That was like 3 years ago at least. It's been a while. That was a great one, though. And then before that, I saw that shitty fucking one of those Star Wars movies, and I just fell asleep in the movie theater.
Sometimes that movie theater air conditioning and, lackluster film...
It'll do it.
It'll do it. It'll put you to sleep.
It will do it. Absolutely.
The last one I saw before the pandemic was The Invisible Man, which I quite liked.
Oh, actually, I saw that in the theater, too. I liked that one as well.
I thought it was a really good movie.
I'm not a huge fan of what's her name, because I just hate Scientologists, like, with a passion.
She's a Scientologist, so we should definitely bash on her for that a little.
Exactly.
But I also, between...
Elizabeth Moss.
Thank you.
Yes.
Between that and The Handmaid's Tale, like, when is Hollywood going to stop trying to sell that she is fucking hot? Like, I'm sorry, she's not. She's not. Like, in Handmaid's Tale...
She's a good actress, though. Like, she is
fine,
pretty
yeah.
talented.
I agree.
Really.
She
really is.
She is, but she's like...
Are they trying to sell that she's hot? Is that what's going on here?
In The Handmaid's Tale, like, every dude is, like, willing to destroy their rank and position in life for a piece of that ass. And then in The Invisible Man, a literal billionaire throws away his entire life just to, like, torment her back into taking him back. That's insane.
It's less than realistic.
Insane. It is. It is. And
I mean, this is a controversial hot take from Andrew.
It is, but I'm just saying, like... I guess we'll poke fun at Jeff Bezos while we're at it. It is believable, because there are billionaires who date...
Fair.
Not attractive women.
But doesn't he have, like, a super hot girlfriend now or something?
It depends on... I mean, if you're, like, into plastic surgery...
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Bezos is unusual because among billionaires, he dates within his age group, which I think is at least out of the ordinary compared to your average one.
I mean, look at Elon Musk. He dates... Or was
crazy.
dating
He
someone
dates
who
crazy.
looked like she was, like, 18.
Right? He dated Amber Heard for a little bit.
Yeah, she got around.
Well, shouldn't say things like that, but yeah, Amber Heard's a big tornado crazy. I guess everybody saw the conclusion of the Heard Depp trial.
I actually respect her for shitting in his bed. Like, that makes her a more interesting public figure, in my opinion.
It's certainly a display of primal dominance.
It is, right?
It is.
She fucking won that battle.
Yeah. It's like doing a primal pose, like have your hands up in the air.
Didn't you say there was a photo and you saw said photo.
Of the shit? Yes.
There's a real photo.
There's a
And
real
I've seen
photo.
it.
It's online, man.
And I remember, like, she tried to say it was the dog, and he was like, it's a Yorkie. He was like, it did not create this big pile of shit.
Yeah, I mean, there are, there are limits to how much a dog's asshole can expand, and
I'm just
the
saying.
log she laid down was too big for a dog of that size.
Is that something you know a lot about?
Log size?
You know how much a dog's asshole can expand?
I'm basically a professional subject matter expert.
I mean, I'm just saying, that's fun. It is fun. She sounds like she's kind of fun.
So yeah, speaking of crazy, we are doing a Cronenberg, which is
Yes.
crazy by default, pretty much.
It's about as weird as it gets. I mean, this was the most far out movie I've seen in a long time. And my first words out of my mouth when it was over is, what the fuck did I just watch?
It was pretty strange. The film,
What movie?
Crimes of the Future. The 2022 version, it is worth noting up front that David Cronenberg has another title, or another film titled Crimes of the Future, that has nothing to do with this film.
From David Cronenberg?
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Wait.
It's one of his earliest films.
This is... Why?
I think maybe his second one, from what I
Why?
saw.
Correct.
Why would he do that?
1970.
What is he trying to do here?
Um,
He just likes that title?
There are like some mild similarities
Who
between
does
the
that?
two. I think he wanted to revisit it because this was like an indie film, and
Okay. But isn't the subject matter different?
overall, yes, there are some similarities,
It's
but
a cool title, but is it that cool?
I mean, it's got some like weird dystopian, like humanity on the verge of kind of like dying off or something. Some calamity like event is going on at like a very biological level within humans. So that's about the end
I
of
get
it.
a reboot, but using the same title for a totally different film is weird.
It is
I
weird.
guess he's a weird motherfucker, though.
He is a weird motherfucker. So just talk about Cronenberg some. Rick and Morty brought Cronenberg back into the public limelight, in my opinion, pop culture limelight with their reference of Cronenberging. I forget, it's a season 1 episode where they turned the entire planet into horrible praying mantis monsters.
Yes.
Alluding to The Fly, of
Yep,
course,
yep.
which is my favorite Cronenberg film.
I figured that would probably be the first one we actually would do.
It's shocking that we somehow have not done The Fly yet.
Cronenberg is known as the master of body horror. It's a genre that he mostly dominates, I would say, outside of like some Italian horror directors. And
He kind of pioneered it, more or less. I mean, obviously, John Carpenter had his hand in The Thing.
Sure.
And there are, The Thing and In the Mouth of Madness, to a lesser-ish extent. But Cronenberg is like the OG.
He's the guy.
He's the guy.
For some gross out body horror stuff. And also some weird sexual perverted stuff. What does he do in his free time? Like, what is his sexual fetish? Because a lot of his movies have weird sexual fetishes as a theme. And it's like, does he like go home and fuck lamps or something? I don't know. What is he into?
Videodrome is another heavy hitter title of his, cult classic that is very body horror oriented and fucking very weird. Like I would say by my count, it's much weirder than The Fly. The Fly is pretty weird, but that's like
his most accessible film for a mass audience.
which is saying something.
For body horror films of his. I mean, he has done other non-body horror films that, like I could probably see my mom watching. But,
Fair.
There
was Crash, which was like people who were like sexually attracted to like amputees or something, wasn't it?
I was about to bring that up, Braden, because that might be my favorite Cronenberg movie, and it kind of combines the body horror, scarification themes that he really enjoys, and the sexual satisfaction.
There were some similar themes in the Crimes of the Future one that we just watched. I like Naked Lunch because I love William Burroughs, and I just love that whole like beatnik generation of literature.
He also did The Dead Zone, which is a Stephen King adaptation, and the movie plays out much like a Stephen King film, but it has Christopher Walken in it, and Martin Sheen, I'm pretty sure.
Don't remember. I know Christopher Walken plays the lead.
Yeah, Christopher Walken is the lead for sure. And it's a man who, after suffering a near-death experience, can like touch people and see the future, basically.
That's fun.
In a nutshell. But that's like pretty accessible too. I mean, gosh, who's the director on that? No, wait, not director. There's a cinematographer I think that was attached to it. That's also
In the Dead Zone?
Yes. I could be wrong.
I don't know.
We'll keep rolling because there's a lot of Cronenberg to talk about. Eastern Promises is also pretty accessible. I mean, it's
I
like
haven't seen that one. What's the premise there?
it's a Russian mob movie essentially, and it also stars Viggo Mortensen.
So it's not body horror or weird sex stuff.
No, not really at all.
That was more of like a foray into just ordinary filmmaking.
Correct. I would also say A Dangerous Method is also probably pretty accessible.
And that's why those are like the forgettable ones, right?
This
Kind
one
of.
also has Viggo Mortensen, so there's a trend here if you guys haven't picked up, because Viggo Mortensen is the lead role of Crimes of the Future. But he plays Carl Jung, but Michael Fassbender plays Carl Jung,
Yes.
and Viggo Mortensen plays Freud.
You were saying that earlier.
Yes.
I'm intrigued by that.
So there's a bunch of good stuff in here. I haven't seen The Brood. I haven't seen Fast Company. I haven't seen Rabid. Or some of the other ones that have been recommended to me over the years that I just haven't.
Eventually we'll hit them all.
But Videodrome's really fucking weird. That's probably about the least accessible of his films, other than maybe this one.
Yes. Existence was another one. It was kind of like Videodrome, but with like video games, kind of.
Yeah.
VR shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But Crimes of the Future, I don't know. I felt like this might have been one of the most far out ones he's even done. I thought it was even crazier than Videodrome.
It's pretty crazy. So I guess to do like a cast run through, or actually, let's talk about the production a little bit more. This movie originally was in production, or a work was in production titled Painkillers in 2003 that was about performance art and, revolving around surgery.
Similar kind of concept. And that was going to have Nick Cage as the title character, which fucking would have been amazing.
Initially, but then also Ralph Fiennes.
Who is Ralph Fiennes?
Ray Fiennes.
Ray Fiennes, yeah, sorry, I always fuck that up.
He famously played Voldemort.
Oh,
in the
okay.
Harry Potter
Oh, yeah,
movies.
he's great.
He was
He's also in Schindler's List.
Sure.
Yeah.
He's great.
In Bruges.
Yeah. I never saw that one.
Oh, In Bruges is delightful. I mean, it's really depressing, but it's a good movie.
Nick Cage, though. I don't know. I'm still just thinking that would have made it even better for me. And Natalie Portman.
Fiennes just took over the role that Judi Dench used to play in the 007 movies. I think at least the past two, but I haven't seen the most recent one.
Did they ever decide who's going to be the new James Bond?
It has not been announced yet.
I almost don't care, but...
I mean, I love Bond movies. They're a big part of my childhood.
Same. I actually read all the fucking Ian Fleming books.
I still haven't read any of the Ian Fleming ones.
Allegedly, Bond is based off of Chris Lee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Indeed.
R.I.P. One of the greats. One of the greats.
So we can just do a quick segue. If we're talking about Christopher Lee, we recently watched that video of him informing Peter Jackson what a man being stabbed actually sounds like.
Oh, yes. I actually heard this story. Go ahead.
And for this movie, Crimes of the Future, it was scored by the same guy who did the score for Lord of the Rings, Howard Shore. And
Okay.
I quite like the score of this movie. I thought it sounded good.
It was creepy.
It was creepy.
It had some vibes.
Yeah, agreed. It's an interesting connection there.
It is a good connection. Also, again, with, Lord of the Rings connections. Viggo Mortensen famously
Yeah.
played Aragorn.
That's
so,
right.
I mean,
Of course, I didn't even think about that.
Every time I see him, I just get sucked into his butt chin, like so much.
he's got
It's
a strong chin.
I just can't look away.
Yeah,
I don't know what that's about, but it's a defining feature of his face.
Just sucks you right in.
It
huh?
just sucks you right in.
He's a great actor. In this movie, he plays a character who seems to be developing new organs.
Just
Yes,
popping
like-
them in his body. They just are popping in there.
Popping right up. Yeah, he's like he's evolving, human evolution. He's the next stage, but the organs have, like, many of them don't seem to have any function. It's odd.
It's weird.
It's weird.
And jumping back to the performance art connection, this character stars in performance art where he has his organs removed. And don't worry, this isn't like too big of a spoiler. You know, we're not.
We're going.
I mean, we are going to
this,
spoil the
though.
fuck out of the
and
movie.
it's in the movie theater now, so we should just go ahead and say that.
Right now, currently in theaters. So
Many of the listeners probably have not watched.
we're going
it.
to go over this better than the fucking Wikipedia page because it is lacking.
He lives with a character played by Lea Seydoux, who is also in the Bond movies, and they do performance art together. She operates a machine that extracts organs from people.
The machine's very Geiger-esque. You know, we talk.
Yeah,
we
definitely.
love Geiger here. H.R. Geiger, for those of you who don't know anything.
In fact, that quite reminded me a bit of the self-extraction scene in Prometheus when,
Yeah, the med pod.
Numi Rapace,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, that makes
It's
sense.
my favorite scene. in
Weird, like,
Prometheus.
organic-looking technology. Like, a lot of it looks like it's biological in a way.
Actually, my two favorite scenes in Prometheus are the med pod scene, and then when Wayland has his brains bashed out by David's head or whatever.
Nice.
That's pretty sweet.
Fassbender.
Yeah.
Great role for him, playing a homicidal robot.
Indeed.
Yes,
the
that
first.
was-
He's the original. Like, in canon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
way before Bishop.
Right. Interesting. But yeah, they like use these. It's almost like these AI robot arms to do the surgery, which isn't that like becoming a trend, or will be the future of surgery. They can do like microsurgeries using like robots and artificial intelligence and stuff. Are we there yet, or is that still?
I think they're working on it, and
Sci-fi.
I'm sure there's some surgeries where they use, some degree of robotics somewhere in the world.
Sure. Well, like laser eye surgery and stuff is all that, I think.
Yeah, but like as soon as the first one just goes
Hard
on the
wrong.
fritz and just like carves some 10-year-old kidney transplant up like a Halloween jack-o'-lantern.
Sure.
I mean, I guess people could do
That's-
that too, but
I
like
mean, people. It's kind of like the self-driving cars thing. Like,
I just
everyone
trust it
freaks
less.
out when one gets in an accident, but it might be like 10 times safer. Actually,
That's what they say.
we'll see.
Yeah.
I like driving.
It's kind of like they say, like, you're way less likely to die in a plane crash or whatever, but what they don't tell you is there's, like, virtually no survivors of commercial airline crashes, so, like, if it does crash, you are fucked.
Yes.
It's over.
They do use some robotics in surgery now. I know they use endoscopes. I think it's a catch-all term for similarly to some of the scenes in this movie where they were looking inside of him.
That's when they roto
Right.
reach you, dude.
Yeah, they like stick something in you, and then they can move it around.
And
And
by in you, they mean up your ass.
yeah,
Pretty
maybe.
much. I think the endoscope
I
goes
don't know.
in your mouth, though, right?
Oh, maybe.
I believe. But either way, it's more fun when it goes up the ass. Don't know why.
You know why. you know why.
But
Do we want to get into the other cast members?
Yeah, so there's Kristen Stewart. I don't know if we need to, like, go on about her. She's pretty successful.
well, I do think it's interesting that like all these actors from like Twilight and Harry Potter are doing these weird, far out kind of independent films now. I like it.
Well, they have all the money in the world. They don't have to, like, you know, do the crowd pleasers anymore.
Well, it's still a choice, you know? I mean...
It is.
She's not in Marvel or whatever. She's in David Cronenberg. It's almost like they had no artistic integrity at that time, and they're desperately trying to prove something to the world now.
So I'll say I actually loved Kristen Stewart in this. I thought she was really good.
She was.
I recently saw another pretty far out flick of hers. I forget the title of it, but it's basically some like underwater based thing.
I think you told me that.
Yeah, it's like Lovecraftian. It's like pretty cool, but she was less good than that.
Yeah, that was called like Underwater Base or something like that, right?
Underwater Base, the film.
Underwater Base.
This time underwater. She, not that she was bad in that, but I thought her performance in this was exceptional.
No, it was very, very good.
She plays a real creep, a seemingly very anxious and nervous and timid. And her name is Timlin, like her character. So I wonder if that's a nod to that. She plays a bureaucrat, part of an organization that wants to categorize the new organs that people seem to be developing. Vigo's not the only person.
He's just the most famous because, again, he's a performance artist.
Yeah,
so that's like the new taboo is this performance art. Like, it's going on, it's part of society, but like it is. It's frowned upon, much like early rock and roll, or...
just makes it all the more enticing.
Sure. Let's see, we've got Tanaya Betty? You know, am I saying that right?
I'm not familiar with her.
She's she's one of the, like, company people here. So there's the Geiger-esque pods that we kind of talked about earlier. There's like kind of med tech that exists in this world that seems to be owned by like kind of large colossal corporations. But she is one of two technicians that come around and service this stuff. But like perhaps the technicians are more than just technicians.
Right. Yeah, and this equipment has like a weird like symbiotic relationship with the human biology.
You know what
they give it software updates and it can like adjust your hormone levels and stuff.
Yeah, so there's like a bed that gives you perfect sleep or whatever and like makes you comfortable, which like apparently these people that are having these organ situations are uncomfortable. Some of society feels no pain. It's like a weird evolution that mankind's going through.
They've diverged on the two evolutionary paths.
And then the other one can feel pain, but they're growing weird organs.
How does that happen without like geographical separation, you know?
I don't know, man. You're asking too many questions.
Yeah, you don't ask too many questions about this.
You're getting lost.
It's funny that bed is supposed to be like the most comfortable bed because it looks quite uncomfortable.
They called it an orchid bed, and I think it looks like a giant labia.
But not soft at all. Like a weird metal one.
Again, it looks like a Geiger painting, you know. I do want to say that my first thoughts when I saw the bed... And then there's also a chair that like helps these people with the organs digest food as they're going through. They look like chemo patients, kind of like trying to eat. It's not
that
pretty.
Chair was fucking intense.
It reminded
like made out of teeth and bones and stuff.
It reminded me of chair dogs from the fucking Dune universe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I forget what like group or faction makes them, but they make organic chairs that have like simple brains. They can like pick up on your cues and can contour and get in the perfect shape for you, and it's like kind of fucked up because it's like a semi-sentient being that's just like whole purpose is to be a fucking chair.
Right, that is fucked up.
Yeah.
Kind of again, I know we talk about this in every episode, but I have no mouth, but I must scream or whatever.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that.
Indeed, but it's like they've been like maybe intentionally dumbed down. I think that's the implication. But, like, people all across the galaxy get these chair dogs. They're, like, a luxury item. And they have, like, beds, too.
Dude.
They also turn they turn their women into literal breeding machines. Like, they're not, like, you know, they don't walk around and do things. They just, you know, insert, sample, hit start, wait 9 months.
Yeah.
It's pretty weird.
It's
fucking weird. That was, like, once his son took over the series. It got bizarre, but...
Yeah... Sounds like that's his own little fantasy. that he's just interjecting in there.
But here we are seeing something that resembles a chair dog in 2022.
Right.
In a film that received a standing ovation at Cannes.
Yeah, pretty exciting.
And a lot of walkouts, allegedly.
A lot of, well, we're getting there.
I mean, it's not for everybody. Can we preface it with that?
Yeah. My mom would not enjoy this film.
It's quite disturbing.
I think a lot of people wouldn't enjoy it. And it's,
probably a lot
it
of
is
moms.
disturbing. It's fucked up. A lot of open surgery scenes.
Yeah. The med pod, which in this is called a sarc, which is like, I would have to assume a reference to like sarcophagus.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, I mean, almost definitely. But it's a super high-end unit. It was originally used for autopsies, but it has now been repurposed for these live surgeries where Caprice and Saul, Leia and Vigo's characters, extract organs out of Vigo.
I mean, I guess that's kind of like, it's not that far of a leap from like people who hang themselves on hooks and stuff. Like it's a weird thing you just can't quite look away from.
Well, I think like at large, like the organ surgery performance art aspect of this is just supposed to represent like whatever the next taboo thing is. Essentially, we see like there's it's a dystopian film, but like at no point do we see any drug addicts or any other like real evidence of the scourges of society you would expect in a dystopian society, whether that be Clockwork Orange hyperviolence or Clockwork Orange milk drug bars or
I feel
Clockwork
like
Orange.
We see them. We see like the vagrants of society in these alleys doing stuff, but they're like doing weird surgeries on each other.
Yeah, desktop surgeries. As a plot device, the film brings up pretty early that like infections don't exist anymore. Humans have evolved past infections, which is like essential for a lot of the things that are going to happen in this movie, because like otherwise people would just be like dying of
They'd have a lot of explaining to do.
Dude, there'd be a lot of MRSA and fucking sepsis and shit going around.
I was wondering about that personally, because so you mentioned Tanaya Beatty, and then there's also Nadia Litz. They both play these technicians, and they make reference to the fact that the sarcophagus, they stopped making it before they were born. So the company that they work for stopped making this machine long ago. Is the implication there that they don't perform autopsies anymore because people aren't dying, or because of some other reason?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Yeah, has human life been extended because of like the absence of infection, or us having evolved past it?
The film does not answer. It raises more questions than it answers, I feel like, in a lot of ways.
I agree with that.
I like that, though. I'm okay with that. Some people aren't. Sure. It makes people uncomfortable
It's a little
sometimes.
open-ended and subjective, and even, like, the cast, I was reading interviews where even they were like, I don't know what the fuck it's about. There's not any concrete answers for a lot of this shit.
No.
It's abstract in a lot of ways.
But, like, jumping back to the start of the film, before we like get too far ahead.
It starts off with child death.
It starts with child death.
We've established we like on this podcast.
Almost immediate child death, which it's such a bold directorial move every time they do it.
And it was a brutal death.
See, that's the thing is like Alien vs. Predator 2, they just imply the child death. We don't get the full on.
That's for pussies.
Dude, yeah, you see a face hugger pop and hit the kid in the face. And, like, yeah, we'll count it. But, like, here we straight up see a mother smother her child with a pillow. Like, convulsions and all, which is tough to watch. Again, disqualifying my mom from ever watching this film. But it's important because prior to this mother killing her young child, she watches him go into the bathroom and just start taking chunk bites, like, out of a plastic waste bin or trash can.
Yes, and he's, like, drooling this, like, acid that's, like, digesting it. That shit kind of reminded me of those weird TV shows about people who eat odd things.
This is basically the weirdest X-Men movie.
I find that to be the most disturbing of all TV shows, like where they're just eating couches and stuff.
Oh yeah, the kids that have what's it fucking called?
I don't know what that disorder is called, but it is a disturbing one where like people eat glass or hair or whatever.
It's an actual disorder.
Oh yeah, I'm aware. They're fucked.
And it actually correlates tragically with crack babies.
Oh, interesting.
Crack cocaine usage when the mother is pregnant.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of terrible mothers, the movie opens with this kid who's on a beach. You see an oil tanker on its side in the background. I think the implication there is supposed to be, climate change or polluted ocean. He's digging in the sand, and his mom yells from the house that he shouldn't eat anything that he finds in the sand. She says it twice, and then going inside, after she watches him get ready for bed and brush his teeth, he starts chewing on this plastic wastebasket, and then it cuts to the kid trying to sleep, the woman watching over him, and then picking up a pillow before she smothers him. Very disturbing scene, I thought.
Very disturbing.
Yeah. Probably the most disturbing scene of the whole film, and that's saying something.
Then she calls his father and says, like, come get the body of this, like, fucked up creature that you call your child or something.
Yeah. The father played by Scott Speedman of Underworld fame. Also, The Strangers, which I love The Strangers. He's a dude who blows the Golden God's face off with a shotgun.
Which one is The Strangers?
It's like the serial killers in the remote house, and they're all wearing the like weird like doll mask like things.
Okay, yep.
What
I remember.
It's got Dennis. It's got Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is in it.
Yep.
It's like one of his earlier credited acting roles. It's pretty bad. I fucking love that movie.
Another Lord of the Rings connection. Liv Tyler plays the wife in that movie.
Okay, yep.
Indeed. Look at that. Everything's coming back to Peter Jackson today.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I wasn't familiar with the actress who played the mother, Lee Kornowski, but I thought she was good.
She was great. Not a ton of screen time, but good.
Indeed. And then after that we're introduced to, the performance art concept, and then the idea that this guy just keeps growing organs and then they just keep taking them out of him. And it's almost, they imply that like he has some degree of control over it and can like grow them at will almost.
They also in the start of the film state that like if he doesn't take them out, it like will kill him.
It might be cancerous
exactly
growths, essentially.
And again, this is like microplastic future where everybody's got growths, man. The growths are coming.
The growths are coming. Yeah, and it does kind of come up in the film, like, is this evolution that's going to advance the human species, or are these, like, arbitrary mutations that could even, like, make it more difficult to survive?
There seems to be pretty much from the onset governmental pressure to, at a minimum, heavily monitor these organ growers. In fact, there is a secret government agency that we're introduced to called the National Organ Registry very early on, where this performance art couple goes to have basically one of his organs, cataloged and then tattooed.
Yeah, what was going on with the tattoo? I guess that was part of the art performance, but they would tattoo them while they were still in his body?
I think it's to, like, make it super identifiable that organ is a new organ or an out-of-place one or whatever, or just, like, for tracking purposes.
I just don't want any new organs.
You don't know that.
I remember on one of our first episodes, you said if you could have a superpower, you were like, I'd grow more dicks.
I'd grow more dicks. Like a porcupine.
Or like Mr. Ears in this movie.
Yeah, there's a guy with ears all over his body.
Mr. Ears.
You would just have like weird flaccid dicks hanging off of him.
Well, I want to be able to retract and
make them
extend them at will.
Oh, I see. That would be a pretty good superpower.
It'd be
Just like impregnate a whole fucking train of people all at once.
I mean, it'd leave an interesting corpse when like somebody with a real superpower cut me in half with laser vision or whatever. But yeah, so anyways, National Organ Registry. That's where we already referenced the actors, but we're introduced to Whippet and Timlin, who are these bureaucrats, and
they're creepy and weird, and
they're
also
both
have
weird.
their own fascination that seems to be outside of just their job.
It's kind of like
they're into this.
It's kind of like, the guy who works at Foot Locker probably has a foot fetish.
Right.
Like you put yourself into those roles and then work just flies by, because if you love your job, you never really work a day in your life.
Right. You nailed it. And like even beyond that, they like explicitly state that these surgeries are like a new way of having sex almost, and they get some kind of sexual gratification by watching the surgery, which I guess would be almost like watching a live sex show or performing it themselves. Which
is like pretty on brand, I would say. Again, like we see people in alleys like with strangers cutting one another, and that's like, this is the new sexual taboo.
Kristen Stewart's character attends one of their performance art pieces and comments to Viggo Mortensen after it that she had an epiphany while watching them, and that surgery is the new sex.
Yes, which it's an interesting idea. I think it says a lot about David Cronenberg that these themes keep popping up. Like, what the fuck's wrong with that dude?
Yeah.
He's Canadian, man. He's Canadian.
Fucking beady-eyed Canucks.
It's like the people who fall in love with... I'm just thinking of all these like weird TLC shows today, but like they'll fall in love with like a Volkswagen Beetle, or this girl will like fall in love with her airplane and like fuck herself with it all the time. People who fall in love with inanimate objects and stuff. There's like I don't know if he has normal sex with human beings, David Cronenberg. There's something going on there.
I mean, if he likes fucking inanimate objects,
I'm not shaming him, as long as
it's not
it's
an
his
animal,
property,
as long as
not
it's
like
not
someone else's.
an animal or a child, and it can give consent.
What about octopuses?
Or it doesn't matter.
I was thinking about this.
An octopus cannot give consent. It doesn't understand. It doesn't know what consent is. It probably knows what not consent is, as I think most animals in the animal kingdom understand that one. Like, no, not fun.
Jellyfish don't have brains. They should be an exception.
They don't. But, okay, most mammals then. Is that what you want me to say?
What about turtles? They're just covered in holes.
Yeah, but, one of them be disastrous.
It's a snapping turtle.
Yeah, just clean off.
Alright, we've taken this too far.
Yeah, it got me weird.
I'm not trying to give Cronenberg a run for his money here with some weird sexual fetish stuff.
So yeah, there's definitely, we're just getting into the crux of it, tying body horror to sexuality. I think that going back to Lovecraft, that's that was his thing, right?
Was it?
He was like very weirdly not sexual in terms of physical intimacy, but like obviously he had some weird fucked up ideas about sex.
Sure, tentacles.
Yeah.
Etc.
Well, fishmen,
Yeah.
Fish monster, man.
Those are fun.
Actually, God, who did Watchmen?
The author?
Yeah.
It's the wizard-looking guy, Alan Moore.
Yeah. He did this real weird Lovecraft-based graphic novel series that had, like, extremely graphic fish monster rape in it.
Oh,
yep.
Nice.
So it's a good little fucking window into his brain. He went through with that one.
Did he also do The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
Yes, he did.
And there's some weird sex stuff in that too.
There is some weird sex.
Talking about invisible men.
That's big money. Big business is in finding the next new sex. Just try with anything, and if something hits, throw it all against the wall. See what sticks.
And if partner to partner surgery sticks, so be it.
Exactly. That could be like the next ASMR trend. Or something,
Sure.
Who knows? Seeing a woman disgustingly eat fucking chicken wings, like someone got a boner to that, and they were like, a new genre was born.
Yeah, his name is Pierce Brosnan.
Allegedly.
I don't know. The evidence speaks for itself on that one, man.
From the drafting table to the dinner table.
From the drafting table to the dinner, the architect, man.
You're a terrible person.
Dude, he's a happy man. I don't know what you're calling me terrible for.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know why you're making fun of him. Let him do what he wants.
Because it's funny.
If he's
That's
a
why I'm
feeder,
making fun of
he can be
him.
a feeder.
You're right.
I approve of that more than like someone who starves to death there.
I mean, certainly if you're involved in their starvation, because that's torture. But like,
what if it's consensual though?
I think the long health implication of intentionally making someone fat should also be weighed negatively.
Agree.
Pun
I
intended.
totally agree. What?
It really wasn't actually, but thanks for catching that.
Anyway, it's fucked up. He's fucked up.
Yeah, so
I think that's established.
indeed. And we'll keep talking about how weird Cronenberg is. We're not done with
I
that.
do not want to see his Pornhub history.
Watch it be the most vanilla thing you've ever seen. Naked woman, something like that.
Naked woman.
Because he gets everything out in his screenwriting and his
That's
directing,
true.
and he's just very vanilla.
He exclusively jerks off to fucking like vanilla JPEGs.
His typewriter's just covered in jizz as he's writing this.
Maybe. I mean, you know, if you can create your own stimulation, shall we say, and even you have the craft and the resources to
Pull it off.
really bring it into existence, why wouldn't you?
Bring it into existence.
Bring it in.
Find the new sex.
Yeah.
Keep on exploring.
Again, he thought about this one for a long
For
time.
20 years.
20 years.
He was thinking about this.
And he might have been
writing
thinking
it.
about it since 1970. Like, coming off the first one, he's like, man, I really could have done that
Crimes of the future.
better for me.
He's like, man, I can't.
Yeah, no compromises this time. Like,
Exactly. Now I got the budget. We're making some weird shit.
so, you know, we talked about the ear guy. I want to, you know, not go too into it, because, I mean, it's weird. It's a man covered in ears, and we're watching his eyes and mouth be sewn shut as like a performance art piece, which, you know, okay, fine. Pretty extreme, though. You know, I'd probably want to keep my eyes, personally.
Pretty extreme. I mean, that's not that far removed from reality where we grow the ears on the mice and all of that, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know what...
South Park did that, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they did. It was with dicks, though.
That's right.
Yeah. Mr. Garrison's dick he was trying to regrow after he decided he didn't want to be a woman anymore.
We get 3 instances of performance art in this movie, or at least 3 different groups of people who do it. Viggo Mortensen and Lea Seydoux as the surgery. Then we get the stop talking, stop looking, and listen. It's like an electronic music dance thing.
He's got ears all over his body.
And
That was very on the nose.
Ah.
And listen.
It was kind of cool, though. You know,
Oh, it was cool.
It was a cool sequence.
It was cool.
I didn't hate it.
I
And
would
what's
go
the
pay
third?
money to go see that performance art, particular one. But
The third is, it seems to be an acquaintance of Caprice, played by Lea Seydoux, who has been struggling to find plastic surgeons who are willing to make her uglier. So they make like these incisions on her cheeks.
With,
and
like
her
fish
forehead.
gills,
right.
basically, and then do some weird Klingon shit with her forehead.
she's trying to be uglier.
I think that gets into the theme of the whole transhumanism, which is kind of an undercurrent of this whole movie.
Sure.
You know, what is the next step in evolution? Because she ends up getting some kind of like under the skin implants after she witnesses that surgery.
Yeah, she feels compelled to go out and do it herself, you know.
And so does Vigo at one point. He gets something installed in his...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he gets a
pouch.
he gets a zipper installed in his abdomen, which can be opened and closed at will. And again, no infections, so this is totally cool. No big deal, guys.
Oh, yeah, totally normal.
Yeah, totally normal.
Totally.
But you can open it up and see his organs inside there. He gets that from a special doctor who's like, that's his thing or whatever.
I might as well just go ahead and say my favorite scene was when the girl opens it up. Is it Kristen Stewart or
No. This is Leia.
She unzips his pouch and exposing his organs and then eats him out.
And he likes it.
Oh yeah, he like orgasms. That was weird.
Eat my stomach.
Loved it. And
Yeah.
that was like the weird thing is that's the closest anyone came to having normal sex in this film. Like that somewhat resembles like a normal human sex act. Everything else was weird surgery.
I can think of one other one. Another weird surgical sex thing is that like Vigo and Leia are like laying in their surgery pod together and like just both getting cut up a little bit here and there by the surgery machine as they cuddle. So yeah, it's pretty on the nose. They're trying to say surgery is the new sex,
right?
And they directly say it.
And they also, it's kind of implied that like people do not have normal sex anymore in this society, or even like physical. Because at one point, isn't Vigo about to like hook up with Kristen Stewart, and that he's like, I'm not good at this.
That would be the other normal-ish sex scene where they like kind of make out for a second, but
it makes him highly uncomfortable.
And he says, "I'm bad at the old sex.
I'm only trying to do it with like my gaping organs hanging out."
Yeah, that's the only way for me.
There's one more. Close to the end of the movie, he kisses his partner.
Oh yeah,
when they're like lying on the ground.
That's gross.
Oh yeah, okay, that's fair.
But those are, I think, are the only two kisses that I can think of in the movie at all. It's
jumping back to the person who had the cosmetic surgery to make her face look like a fucking catfish's sides. So going back to the sexuality thing, there's like a certain, I would say, obvious degree of sexual tension between her, the model, and Leia's character. This keeps slipping out of my brain. What's her name? Caprice, yeah. And then, like, you know, the next scene is her meeting back up with Vigo, and now she has these surgical implants in her head. So it's like she had her little, like, dalliance, if you will.
Sure.
Looks a little bit like a Klingon.
Yeah, yes. She had her dalliance with somebody who horrifically scarred their face up beyond repair, but...
I mean, it happens. I had a buddy who ended up going home with a bunch of strippers, and they branded him with crucifixes.
He let them do that?
He let them do that.
Wow.
His got infected, though. It was in...
I'm sure it was...
the real world.
Guys, listeners out there, if anyone wants to brand you, unless it is, like, really your kink, and that's, like, you have sought to do this, and you have the correct...
I think it was their kink, and he was just along for the ride.
And see, that's where you gotta...
That's where you gotta draw the line. You gotta set some boundaries.
Sometimes it's better to just walk away and get out of that apartment.
I hope you didn't pay them for that.
Oh, God. Paid him for the privilege of fucking medical bills. That's some Nexium shit right there.
That's some weird shit. I mean, I guess they were pretty attractive.
Was one of these strippers Allison Mack?
I don't believe so, but that's kind of fun.
That is kind of fun. So yeah, you know, I just think in general this film's overarching message is just like how society deals with and reacts to change.
There's multiple themes.
Yeah, whether it's the change of rock and roll moving in, or disco, or grunge, or I mean, pick the new wave, whatever. Like, there's always some societal opposition to it. You know, the old geezers basically pushing back.
Sure.
And that's
the devil's music.
Exactly, and this is just like what the new taboo, the new thrills,
sex.
If they're checking. Exactly.
There's also like themes of basically what is going to happen once we merge with like the computers, essentially, or like how will all this technology and information we live in affect human evolution and biological change, which clearly we're all going to be androids, right, or something.
It would be cyborg. Because an android is a replica and cyborg is a...
Fair.
Yeah.
Sure.
Get it
We're going to
fucking
be
together.
cyborgs.
Cyborgs, yeah. You know,
And we'll all have chips.
As long as I can shoot lasers out of one of my eyes, I'm on board.
As long as I can grow more dicks.
Or
As long as I can shoot lasers out of my dicks.
Yeah. Rocket punch, if I could rocket punch an arm out.
Go, gadget arm!
Yeah, but, I mean, I wanted to shoot
Go,
off.
gadget. Oh, shoot off.
Like a Gundam or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
It would be sweet.
I don't think it's going to be that cool. I think it's going to be more like we're in pods and we're just, or hamster wheels running on that to mine crypto.
Like that Black Mirror episode where the dude earns credits by riding the bike
Yes.
to buy his love interest a chance to get out, and then they just drug her and turn her into a literal porn star.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's going to be microtransactions just so that we don't have to watch more ads.
That is a dark statement on the entertainment industry and its role in society, that film. Surprised they let that one through.
Black Mirror?
Yeah.
I mean, oh, dude. That show's amazing.
It is.
They need to make more of those.
They won't.
It got too close to the truth.
Yeah.
The master plan.
It's like, well, now we can't do that anymore. Black Mirror did it. Got to push that back.
We have to make it more subversive.
Another kind of big theme is there's a lot of kind of like parallels to the med tech industry, pharmaceutical industry that we deal with in today's world, which is they're all powerful, very very wealthy, pretty much exempt from the law. If the Sackler family ordeal taught us anything, but the like bed and chair companies technicians are also like very clearly government operatives of some sort. They're I don't know, they're very peculiar. I think pretty early on I picked up that they were behaving very strangely for people who were just there to like repair a high-end bed or whatever.
Right.
There's a detective.
They're always showing up, and
there's a detective that Vigo meets up with a bunch, and like we gradually pick up over a couple of these. That like Vigo's kind of got some kind of informant like role regarding this kind of underground.
So they never quite explain like why.
But there was a whole governmental unit dedicated to fighting, or at least monitoring very heavily in a very like CIA kind of way these organ developments.
I mean, I could understand why you'd want to track that a little bit, maybe, especially if their X-Men are just going to start appearing.
This goes back to your point about old versus new, but the movie's split between two groups. Effectively, the government, and I guess it's implied that the corporation that manufactures these biobeds,
The pharmaceutical or the medical industry or whatever.
exactly, they're in league together, whereas Scott Speedman, who plays the father of the child who dies in the beginning, is part of a group of almost radical environmentalists that...
Yes. / evolutionists or something. Their whole goal is to speed up human evolution.
And they believe that mankind is in process of evolving. And they touch on that in the beginning of the film, that like mankind's lost the sense like to feel pain, or some of mankind has, not everybody, but like that's like a weird evolutionary path that's like harmful, because pain's a useful tool. It teaches you when you're a kid, like that's hot, you touch it, it burns you, you fucking learn it's hot and you don't touch it again.
Right.
And that's a valuable lesson.
Very much so.
But there seems to be some bit of humanity that is like beginning to evolve per these kind of like cultist group views, and they have elected to perform surgeries to effectively speed up the process of evolution and make it so they're capable of eating plastics.
That was hard to understand, in the sense of like, are they modifying their genome or something, or?
Well, I think it was a series of complicated, surgeries, because we see their like abdomens and there's fucking cuts everywhere when they're talking about this.
But we later learn that guy, Scott Speedman,
passed it on to his child. So it's like an epigenetics thing, maybe. Like they rewired their organs and shit and started producing certain hormones as a result, and certain other enzymes and shit in the body, and that at a cellular level changed their like genetic makeup, Which epigenetics is real. Like, you know,
Right.
if you're fucking fat, if you eat a bunch of fat, shitty food, it'll fucking, you know, it'll trigger those genes to become activated, which then will be passed on to your offspring.
Or like people who grow up in times of famine, their children will be smaller.
Correct. And it's just like the genes are activated by environmental stimuli, can be turned on and off.
That's interesting.
So it's like a good argument for trying to take care of yourself, especially if you're trying to have kids, is like, you know, those genes, the way you're treating your body can affect literally the genes you pass on to your offspring. Although, like, I'm no expert in
My kids are
genetics.
fucked.
Yeah, we're done. Done.
I mean, I have wondered, like, what is going to happen with human evolution? Like, natural selection does not work for modern humans the way it does, like, say, in the animal kingdom. It doesn't, I mean, maybe the principles of natural selection are still the same, but, like, it's kind of like the film Idiocracy. Like, what is going... It's definitely not like a survival of the fit. Everyone's fit. We keep people alive who would surely die in the wild.
All the time.
Frequently reproduce.
It,
Often at a higher rate than, like, regular people.
Sure. And that's, you know...
It's concerning.
And that's why these cultists think that we need to make people be able to eat plastic. So we can, at least in part, avoid the idiocracy timeline.
That's honestly, we haven't really gotten into that, but the plastic eating is a huge part of the plot of this film, and it's a big part of it, and we were talking about microplastics in the blood earlier, and how that is an actual thing now, that there's so much plastic in our world that, what was it called? BPA or BMA or something?
Yeah, there are lots of different, I guess, chemicals that keep showing up in people. And I was listening to a radio show a couple weeks ago that was getting into, I think it's pronounced phthalates, which is like BPA, Teflon, artificial chemicals that have disastrous effects on human physiology and seem to cause cancers, or at least be correlated with cancer.
Yeah, BPA is like a xenoestrogen, essentially. It causes like an estrogen-like reaction in your body, but like at extreme, bizarre, weird levels.
But it's all synthetic, man-made materials.
Correct. It's what they
should not exist, probably.
They used to line water bottles with it and shit. Like,
and I'm sure there's stuff they're lining water bottles with now that we just don't know what it's going to do to us.
yeah, they haven't figured it out yet.
Because it probably takes a generation. But yeah, that shit is scary. And I mean, it doesn't seem that far-fetched to think we might be... Some people are going to get cancer and die. And then some people will be selected for this trait where they can withstand all the plastic in our body and merge and become one with the plastic.
Indeed. So, yeah, those are like the two factions, though. These you know, plastic-eating cultists who, like, seem by all accounts to just kind of want to, like, prevent the world from going to shit.
They're revolutionaries, kind of. They're like, let's fight back against the government. And also, it's implied, or I think it's directly stated, like, what they're doing is illegal, and, like, they're underground, essentially.
Yes. Which is, like, the establishment's, like, trying to preserve some idea of what humanity is, despite, you know, the assertion that we're in flux of evolution right now, currently. You know, whether it's towards being able to eat plastic naturally, or, you know, the other evolutionary direction where they lose the ability to feel pain and they just, like, slowly, you know, I would say that's the branch that's more likely to die off, because, like,
right.
Pain is a useful teacher.
Sure.
Just, like, ask anybody who has whatever that fucking disease is where they can't feel pain. So, the boy's father, you know, we find out he's, like, more or less kind of like the head of this cult thing. We see a scene where they're, like, making fucking candy bars out of purple goo. It looks like that, it's the purple goo from that Power Rangers movie, you know?
Ivan Ooze.
Ivan Ooze, yes! Yes, I couldn't fucking get it out of my head when I saw it.
That's hilarious.
But we see, like, a production line where they're making these things. And at one point in the film, we see him, like, leave the bar for somebody to eat. It's like a bartender or whatever. He eats and just, like, starts foaming at the mouth. So
right.
Normal people can't eat these candy
They're not
bars.
adapted Well, it seems like even the cult members, they have modified their body in some way. It's not a normal evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out that basically, so this guy, his son is the one who got smothered in the very first scene. He wants to reveal to the world that his son has naturally evolved these mechanisms for eating plastic.
So he was born with a digestive system that out the gate could eat plastic. Hence why the kid was eating.
We could use a kid like that to clean up the ocean.
We could just have him chomp around.
Just drop him off on that giant plastic island or whatever.
Yeah, this is your home.
Knock yourself out.
Yeah.
You're dumped boy now.
Dump boy.
The movie leaves it ambiguous as to whether he was born with it or if he was surgically altered, which I liked as a detail. Because we're led to believe by Scott Speedman that he can digest plastic. Later, there's some doubt cast on that.
Well, that's the part where I got a little bit lost. But one of the big climactic scenes, we might as well just go ahead and say it.
Yeah, just jump in.
We're
mostly there.
They want to do a public performance art piece where they're going to do an autopsy of this boy and reveal his new organs to the world, that he evolved naturally. And when they do open him up, what happened? All of his organs already had tattoos on them, and they looked like they had been implanted in him or something?
Correct, but then it's revealed in dialogue with Vigo and his detective friend. He's like, who did that hack job on the boy? And because he's implying that it was sabotaged, essentially, by the government government/medtech org.
To cover up the fact that he had evolved to eat plastic.
And in fact,
humans were headed.
It's hinted at that Timlin is the one who did it. Who's the one who went in and basically destroyed this whole demonstration event thing.
They're trying to shut this down. They don't want that to be the future.
They don't want it. I think it's just, again, it's change. People resist change,
right.
Especially if they're not part of it. They don't want to fucking have anything
I
to do
don't
with
want to
it.
eat plastic.
No, but who gives a fuck if somebody else eats plastic and it solves their plastic problem?
That's a good point.
So
That'd be helpful.
We see old Scotty Speedman's character. I think his name's Lang.
They take that motherfucker out.
So he steps outside devastated at this revelation or sabotage revelation.
His whole plan fell through.
Yeah, because they
wanted to expose the next stage of evolution.
Indeed,
and they sabotage.
But the mother pretty much confirms, in my mind, that it was not surgical. That the child was born that way. And again,
right.
When the conversation with the detective, where he, it's more or less confirmed that Timlin's the one who went in and fucked stuff up to destroy this great reveal. That's following right after the scene where the father, who I do believe his name is Lang, again, I think I just said that.
Is.
Lang is outside, devastated, crying, and then the two medtech technicians,
government assassins,
come up and have a brief dialogue with him, and they're just like, this situation is what it is, more or less. This is not natural. Your son was not natural. And then they fucking take two battery-powered power drills.
Awesome way to kill
with
someone.
drill bits, and they both just
right into his skull,
bore into
Dahmer
the skull.
style.
Dude, straight in.
Which is, of all ways to kill someone,
so
I
yeah,
like it.
So these technicians, these med capsule fucking technicians, chair dog bed technicians, are straight up hitmen as well.
That's fun. And I mean, he was the last missing piece of the puzzle who could have revealed their
and I guess
giant conspiracy.
The implication there is that they don't want this development to happen because they've got a financial stake in selling devices that help people digest the food and sleep, even though their bodies are trying to change and become something new.
That's too real, man.
They don't want that change to happen because they're have an extremely lucrative business to keep people alive or feeling okay when they're fighting the change as opposed to embracing and accepting it.
Have you ever heard the theory that there's a whole massive orthodontics conspiracy?
Yeah. Dude, a very prominent dentist actually wrote a paper talking about how teeth can be regenerative if you have the correct oral care plan and stuff. basically denouncing fillings
It's a
altogether.
big conspiracy theory that he's basically saying, like, this whole industry doesn't need to exist. And he's also saying they're covering all of this up because there's a lot of money involved. And if, I don't know the details of it, but it's not so different than what they're kind of getting at.
And there's lurid, claims about the cancer industry, oncology in general, having like potentially had way more cures for cancer even decades ago, but it's such a profitable industry.
Or electric vehicles, or like
Teslas, electric vehicles observably have been like killed by fossil fuel interests on multiple occasions.
Right.
Rudolf Diesel, actually, the guy who invented the diesel motor, at the end of his life claimed that he had developed a motor that could run on vegetable oil, and it was more efficient and more powerful than his existing petrol diesel motors. On a ferry in between, I want to say France and Britain, he was last seen at the captain's table. He, excused himself for the evening, and he was
suicided.
Never seen again. His clothes were found neatly folded on his bed with his shoes positioned beside it on the ground. That motherfucker got thrown overboard into whatever that body of water is there.
Sure.
What's that body of water, Matt?
Near where?
Between Britain and France.
Oh, is that the channel? English channel?
English channel. Yeah, I should know that. Could have guessed that one.
But yeah, I mean, so what the film is positing is not that far off from some of these conspiracy theories that are in our society now.
Sure. I mean, like, why would any industry like move to destroy itself? It's gonna move in its interest almost always.
Kind of like the downside of, capitalism taken to an extreme.
So,
I think you have some different kinds of resistance to change too, because you have the mother who's unable to cope with the fact that her son is different, and you have the agents of the corporations acting to kind of keep the status quo. And then you have people who profit off of the change, like Vigo and Leia. So
there's layers,
but they only profit off of it in an acceptable venue or like avenue, if you will, as opposed to like the plastic cultists who want to make large scale, permanent societal change that that is taboo. That's not acceptable because it would undermine the institutions that are currently in place. But like letting people have just like a lurid fascination, like at a time and place where a lot of people can't feel pain and infections don't exist, and like the planet, it's dystopian. The planet looks like it sucks.
Yes, it's not a nice world to live in.
No. So there's lots of different types of change. The film kind of wraps up, or it does wrap up at the end, showing Vigo in his fucking orchid bed after a particularly, or no, he starts in the bed and he goes to eat his
He's in his weird tooth chair.
His tooth chair.
It did look like teeth.
Yeah, his tooth chair.
It's like a vertebrae with teeth on it, and he like becomes part of it, and it like attaches to his body and helps him eat somehow.
Yeah, well, it like jerks him around. It's very violent and shaky. It looks.
It's a weird image that's unsettling.
But it's supposed to like perfectly move to like help you digest food if you can't.
All these things that are supposed to be helping him, he always looks like very uncomfortable on them.
Yeah.
But a thing that's happening throughout the movie is as he's growing these weird, useless organs in his body and evolving, he's having trouble like digesting normal human food. And at the very end, and they film it, the girl films it, and it's kind of like the final performance art piece where he's going to try to eat the plastic chocolate bar, and either he's going to die or he's going to be evolved or whatever.
Well, and Lang had suggested to him earlier that like he shouldn't fight the change, and he himself had been like toying with not fighting the change. He was trying to see what would happen if he let his things continue.
And he stopped having them removed after like the beginning of the movie.
But Lang suggests that he is evolving to be able to eat plastic.
The whole system. It's not, the organs don't function on their own. It's like an entire system's gonna, like a nervous system will or digestive system or whatever,
and
respiratory system.
And it's just naturally occurring to him and anybody else that has this advanced evolutionary, whatever it is, syndrome. So like, you know, it's already been put in his head that like you're a plastic eater and you're a natural plastic eater and like you're just fighting it basically. But he's having
plastic, eat it.
He's having these like crazy jerky things, struggling to eat, and he puts that Ivan Ooze purple chocolate bar up to his lips and he eats it and it's just like
so satisfying.
Dude, it's like a wave of like comfort washes over his face and he has a single teardrop and the chair stops bucking. So it's like
me eating Cookout.
And remember the chair's
like, yes, perfect.
The chair's reading like your fucking biometrics and like making moves based off of that, but when he eats it, the chair doesn't have to jerk and move him around anymore. He's just digesting it normally.
Right.
So it's like, you know, it's the confirmation. He is a plastic eater.
It's like us when we eat those chickens that are grown without feathers and beaks. It's like, yes, this is the way now.
Yes, this is the way. Our bodies crave bird meat that could never move on its own in the wild.
Yes, I know. Something about it is so satisfying with that Bojangles seasoning. Yeah. It's just amazing.
We're growing the breasts on the back of the chickens now.
Exactly.
It's exciting stuff we have going on here.
It's just one giant breast with eyes.
Here at Cronenberg Farms.
It's not that far off from reality like some of this shit. Which is like partly why it's so unsettling and disturbing, because you know, it's a vision of the future that could easily happen, right?
This was going to be part of my closing argument, but it did remind me quite a bit, tying it back to Margaret Atwood, we mentioned at the top, but of Orcs and Crake.
Oh, yeah.
Which we've spoken of before. And in that book, there are Crakers, which are these genetically engineered humans who are adapted to... they don't get burnt by the sun. They can eat plant matter and digest it, and they were all genetically created.
They're also fucking blue, and they have these built-in mating rituals like written into their genetic memory. Nice. They fucking sing, and I think they have tails that like wrap up like Avatar. But I might just be mixing the two. In fairness, there's a lot of overlap there.
Sounds pretty kinky.
There are scenes that they mostly live by the water, and
they have blue penises, right? So the fucking like men, they get hard and their dicks turn blue. And the girls' butts are like yellow or orange.
Yeah, like a baboon.
Like a baboon.
Nice.
They're basically...
There's some really weird details to be honing in on in regards to like the work itself.
Sounds like this out there has some David Cronenberg tendencies.
The reason that I'm bringing it up is that the scene in the beginning with the child by the water and the fact that he turns out to be genetically mutated reminded me a lot of their scenes by the water in that book. Plus also the themes of corporations...
Running wild,
yep. And...
sometimes regulation's good. Possibly.
We've already lost. The corpse already took over. But in Orcs and Crake, the corpse 100% took over. Like, they have, like, jurisdictions that they govern, and, like, you know...
Sounds pretty accurate.
If you don't work for one of the corps and live in their little fucking bubbles, you are, like, living in the slums of collapsed metropolises.
The pleblands.
The pleblands, yeah, that's literally what it is. Thank you, Matt. That's why we brought him here, folks. We brought Matt for the high quality references and content.
Needed a little help with this one.
Yeah, we got very Braden and I. Matt didn't. He was good, but
I'm fucking hungover.
We got really drunk last night.
I do want to just throw this out there. Minor correction from last week. Our boy Troy the boy, the OG Flicker, our biggest fan. He might actually have a shack in Montana and is possibly writing a manifesto. That was confirmed.
But you have to do it on a typewriter, right? Like if you're going to be true.
Oh, you have to go full Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah.
There's no electronics in that house.
No Chromebooks, no iPads. It has to be, or by hand. Write it by hand. It'll take you longer. Savor it longer.
But I support it. I don't know what his mission is, but he has my full support. I hope he likes this episode.
I hope so, guys. It was a little different. I was excited to do an in-person recording, even though experience says recording from our separate home offices actually usually works, pretty well.
It's a superior quality, generally. But let's see how it works. Let's see how it fucking works.
We also could have done it at Braden's house where he has a much nicer mic.
I have multiple microphones. We're all huddled around one microphone, like
in the center of the room.
Savages.
So audio quality, if you have complaints,
suck it.
Yeah, get it out your ass, bitch. This one was fun.
This was a fun one. This one,
it was so fucking
my
weird.
brain is tired. I think it's mostly the hangover, but it's also like that film was a little bit. That was a lot. That's a lot to take in.
It's like the first return day Cronenberg since, the early, I guess, late 90s with Existence.
Correct. And over 20 years where he's doing a fucked up, where he's just letting all of his tendencies out.
Yeah. And one other thing that we haven't touched on, but I think is worth mentioning, is that the style of the movie is all analog tech. So you get to see like a lot of old school TVs and people actually holding video cameras. I don't think we saw a cell phone.
They use that weird remote control that's like a weird amoeba blob.
Yeah, it looks like some like gummy bears were squished onto a fucking shellfish upside down, and that's what they...
Big budget movie. Budget movie. It lights up. It almost looks like a dog toy. Yeah, but that's the technology. It's it's
set up like you hold it like a fucking accordion, and I just can't see how that's the best way to perform surgery, but that's my only real complaint with the film, is I thought the controller fucking was weird.
It was weird. It looked like a brain.
I like the weirdness, but
that's classic
the practical design of it.
He likes that aesthetic, though. He really does.
The biomechanical.
Yes, and like weird squishy things. He just likes them.
And people fused with fucking VCRs and stuff like that.
Yep. Well, thanks for listening, folks.
Woo!
We did it.
It's in fucking theaters, folks.
This is in theaters right now. I would be careful who you take to see this film.
Again, not your mother.
Earlier,
probably.
Matt asked, could a 12-year-old go watch this film? The answer is fucking no.
The answer is
a child dies right in the first scene.
Right
Horrible
out the bat.
Death.
Right out.
That was a bad question.
It was.
But it's we're just throwing it out there. Disclaimer. Be careful who you take to see this film with you.
Yeah, if it's a new date and, it's Susie
Q
from your apartment complex.
That will be the first and last date.
Unless she herself is just like, I am in for the bizarre.
If her body is modified and
then you might be
scarification and stuff,
yeah.
she might be into
if she's got some devil horns fucking worked into her scalp, then this might work great.
She's gonna love this.
If she, has fucking sorority letters on her shit or whatever, it's not a good move.
It's not gonna work.
No.
If you go on a first date to see Crimes of the Future, definitely write in.
I hope Troy takes his family to see this.
Troy, don't do it.
Don't do it, Troy.
I mean, I don't know if your kids are 18 and are cool, then maybe, but that you might just find yourself having family that thinks you're weird.
This is not right. David Cronenberg is fucked in the head.
He's done some pretty weird shit.
Probably most of it we don't know about. The weirdest shit is in his private office with the typewriter.
Password protected folder with all of his in the works projects. We're just kidding, David. We don't think you're that weird. This one was fucking weird.
It's nice to see a future movie that doesn't go full Apple aesthetic. It's
yes,
kind of grimy and dirty.
Indeed, but also at the same time, not like Blade Runner grimy and dirty.
Cronenberg has his own defined aesthetic. That this movie's been kind of hailed as a return to that in a lot of ways, with good reason.
Well, I want to say thank you guys for having me on. I enjoyed this tour of Cronenberg Farms. Very disturbing.
Yeah.
We enjoyed having you, man. It was fun.
Here at Cronenberg Farms.
Mixing it up. Cronenberg Farms, a.k.a. the Tyson Chicken Factory.
All right, Flickers, that is it. Like, subscribe, share with a friend.
Do the thing.
downloads.
Take your sweet loved one to go see this movie.
Dude, we have an Instagram
Ruin your
account.
relationship.
If you are listening to this and you didn't know, we have an Instagram account. We have a Facebook account. Who knows? Maybe we'll even have a fucking Twitter account next time.
Maybe.
I'm going to totally go back on my anti-social media principles if it means you listen to us.
We need attention, please.
We need it.
All right, thank you, Flickers.
Whoa!
Ric Flair.